Hello friends, myself Dr. Rishita Shur, Assistant Professor in Political Science at Scottish Church College, Kolkata. Today we are going to discuss about the significance of Samvidhan Divas in India, which is also known as the Constitution Day in India. Previously, we used to celebrate it as the National Law Day. Before I start with the lecture, I would like to mention that I am going to divide this lecture into 4 sections. In the beginning, we are going to discuss about the background, origin of Indian Constitution. In the second section, we are going to discuss about the philosophy and principles of Indian Constitution. In the third section, we are going to discuss the journey of Indian Constitution, and we are going to understand its revolutionary as well as an emancipatory potential embedded in the Indian Constitution through the journey of constitutional amendments. And in the conclusion, we are going to discuss an evaluation of our Indian Constitution. Rather, we are going to look at the journey, how we have reached today, or the 71st Constitution Day that today India is celebrating, 26th November. Before I start with the discussion, it is important to mention that today the title for the discussion is Revisiting the Constitution of India, Significance of Samvidhan Divas. Before I start with the first section, I would like to discuss or inform you about the background in which we started celebrating this day. In 2015, when India was celebrating the 125th birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the government decided to celebrate 26th November as the Constitution Day. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was the chairperson of Drafting Committee of Indian Constitution. The main objective behind this initiative was to create a culture of constitutionalism, was to evolve values about our constitution, spirit about our constitution, and to propagate the views of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So with this spirit, with this initiative, we started celebrating the Samvidhan Divas. Significance cannot be understood if we do not understand the spirit of our journey, if we do not understand the spirit of our constitution, the spirit of our democracy. And this spirit cannot be understood without the role of Constituent Assembly, which played very important role in shaping the Constitution of India. Before I start with our journey, before I start with our origin, it is important to understand that what do we understand or mean by the Constitution? Why do we need a culture of constitutionalism? By Constitution, we understand the supreme law of the land. The supreme law of the land that governs all the political institutions, structures, procedures, positions, and the everyday life of Indian citizens. This is the apex document which shapes the collective destiny of Indian citizens. This is the sacred document that talks about, that ensures, that legitimizes our fundamental rights, our duties, our other rights, the question of citizenship, the question of our struggle, the question of our existence in society. So this is a negotiated document with which we all Indians relate, with which we relate our aspirations for greater life, our aspirations for better society, our aspiration for a country which is truly liberal and democratic. Constituent Assembly started its journey for constitution building or constitution making with this spirit. You will be surprised to know that the Constituent Assembly had invested 166 days to shape our constitution. The journey started on 9th December 1946 and the journey of the constitution making was concluded on 24th January 1950. This 166 days were the days when our political leaders and the framers of the constitution shaped our destiny. These were the days where Constituent Assembly had experienced multiple social debates on the nature of Bharat, on the nature of India, on the nature of Indian constitution. In the beginning, most of our social debates revolved around the question of national diversity, the question of national integrity and security, the burning issues of poverty, unemployment, economic development, at the same time unemployment. How do we look at India? How do we look at India and the Indian constitution to solve all these issues? What we need to keep in mind that in these 166 days, actually the Constituent Assembly was dealing with the aspirations of Indian people who were at that time were fighting for nation's independence. So the Constituent Assembly was aiming for a constitution building process that secured change, national goals for us, that developed the notion of public empowerment, people's participation in political process, and at the same time this constitution had laid down a broad framework for socio-political changes, economic changes in Indian society. So breaking the existing status quo and bringing in multiple socio-political forces, ideological forces to shape the lives of Indian citizens. So in today's discussion, I'm trying to look at a very interesting relationship between Indian constitution's sovereign power, between government's authority and people's power. I'm going to look at the issue that how Indian constitution has continuously dealt with this very problematic issue or conflict between government's sovereign power and people's power, between government's absolute sovereign power and people's general power or people's empowerment. So Constituent Assembly started its journey with the aspirations of change, empowerment and a broader constitutional framework for India. And what we need to understand that the most important role of Constituent Assembly in building the constitution was to address the conflicting interests and conflicting definitions of power that we continuously handled, people continuously raised during national freedom struggle days. So Indian constitution building not only addressed the conflicting interests of people based on universalism, liberal democratic tradition, demands of Hindu nationalism, politicization of culture, caste, language, but at the same time it dealt with the multiple definitions of power. Is it an absolute sovereign power or a liberal democratic political tradition that the Indian society and the political structures would have for its citizens? So the journey of Indian constitution highlights a very interesting trade-off or sometimes conflict between government's absolute power and people's power. So that is the main journey that Indian Constitution has shown, and we are going to discuss about this. So after this first section, we are going to move to the second section. Second section talks about or discusses about the philosophy and principles of Indian Constitution. Philosophy of Indian Constitution cannot be understood without knowing Indian preamble in the Indian Constitution. It is a gateway to understand the philosophy of Indian Constitution. It defines our India, it defines we the people, it defines our nation state as sovereign democratic republic. The terms like secular. Now we will start with the second section of my lecture that will explain the philosophy and principles of Indian Constitution. The philosophy of Indian Constitution cannot be understood without knowing the preamble in Indian Constitution, and that is the gateway to our understanding on Indian Constitution. It defines our state, we the people. It defines India as the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And it is based on the principles of equality, liberty, justice, and fraternity. It has always given importance to socio-political and economic rights, liberty, and justice. Equality of opportunity for all, equality of status for all. These are the founding principles of Indian Constitution. Our Constitution framers, through all these principles and philosophy, actually had developed some founding moments for us, and which today we can celebrate through these principles of rights, liberty, equality, justice. The terms like socialist and secular were added later in the 42nd Amendment Act. But Indian Constitution has always given importance to the forces of secularism, socialism, liberty, equality, and justice. If you look at the structure of Indian state, it has given importance to the principle of federalism, but the center has always played an important role. In the beginning, in my first section, I mentioned that Indian Constitution has shown an interesting relationship between the notion of absolute political power, between the notion of sovereign and the people's power. So if you look at the philosophy and principles of Indian state, you will see, or we will understand, a continuous negotiation between this government's power and authority and people's power. Indian Constitution has always tried to make a bridge between these two conflicting domains. So if we look at the federal structure of India, if we look at the notion of our rights, our duties, the question of equality, liberty, justice, then we will see that it has always tried to make a relationship between the absolute state power and people's power. It is also important for us to understand that the philosophy of Indian Constitution has continuously given importance to inclusive democracy, to the notion of inclusive citizenship, to the notion of secularism. Very difficult situation that today we are facing, that some of its founding principles and notions are in danger. But these are the principles and philosophy of our Constitution. If we now come to the third section of our journey, then we will be able to see how from 1950s till today, Indian Constitution has completed its journey either ideologically or politically or procedurally. This is very, very important for us to know. And if we look at the nature of constitutional amendment, different types of constitutional amendments till 2019, then we will be able to see that Indian Constitution has continuously dealt with the conflicting interests of the people, responded to the question of socio-economic change, at the same time a very juggling relationship between people's power and government's authority. So now, if we look at a few very significant constitutional amendments which tried to change the landscape of Indian politics and society, it is important to mention that all these Indian constitutional amendments have basically played the role of a silent revolution. In the beginning, I mentioned that the moment we try to understand the nature of Indian Constitution, we always try to look at the revolutionary and emancipatory potential that the Constituent Assembly wanted to inject in Indian Constitution. But now if you look at the constitutional amendments, then it is very clear that the journey of Indian Constitution has also a blending between its revolutionary potential and socio-economic reforms. So it's a kind of silent revolution through which Indian society, Indian politics, Indian culture has gone through piecemeal, gradual changes. The first amendment, the first Constitutional Amendment Act took place in 1951. This is the first amendment, and through which we have seen that states were given special provisions and power to make changes for socio-economically backward classes in society. This amendment also made provisions for land reforms, also added 9th schedule, and at the same time this amendment had also developed the notion of reasonable restrictions, especially on the power of speech, freedom of expression in the question of national sovereignty, foreign relations and greater national security. So if we start with 1950s and if we go by periodically, we will see that 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, these are the time frames which continuously have evolved Indian politics and society through constitutional amendments, silent revolution, and that has actually impacted the journey of the Constitution of India. So in 1950s, apart from the first amendment, there were multiple constitutional amendment acts. Another important amendment act was on states reorganization, where we have seen our states were reorganized on the basis of language, on the basis of the demand of language and identity politics. If we look at 1960s, during 1960s we have seen multiple issues like the formation of legislatures, Council of Ministers for Indian Union Territories. But one thing we need to keep in mind very clearly, especially in 1960s, the question of basic structure of Indian Constitution became very, very important. And that is the time when it was very clear that Indian Constitution has never compromised with the concept of fundamental rights. If we look at different cases like Kesavananda Bharati case, Goloknath case later, we will see that Indian Constitution has never compromised with the notion of basic structure of Indian Constitution, that fundamental rights cannot be amended. The Parliament has the power to amend different provisions, articles of the Constitution, but fundamental rights cannot be taken away from people. So 1950s and 60s together had basically emphasized the question of land reform, the question of fundamental rights, and the question of government power. So this is very, very important time when we see amendments and social changes in the realm of ideological forces, at the same time in the realm of political processes, institutions. 1970s is the time frame which is extremely significant for Indian politics and society for multiple reasons. In 1971, or if you look at from 1970s, this time was very, very significant because it was decided that fundamental rights cannot be taken away. It was the time when the right to property was no more a fundamental right. Rather, it became a legal right. The terms like secularism and socialism were incorporated in Indian Constitution to uphold the multicultural, multilingual aspect of Indian society. 1970s, especially 1976, this was a time which signified or showed the national emergency. Again, multiple amendments which showed that fundamental rights cannot be taken away even during national emergency, especially our fundamental rights like Article 20 and 21, our right to life, our right to liberty. At the same time, this is the time when President's power to declare national emergency or other types of emergency was restricted because he had to do it in consultation with the Council of Ministers. So if you look at these amendments, what I understand that these amendments have continuously dealt with the question of people's power and government's sovereign power. These amendments, the journey of Indian Constitution, has continuously handled this issue. Land reforms, people's fundamental rights, Indian citizens' fundamental rights, the question of liberty, at the same time balancing all these issues with the question of social change. If we come to after 1980s, if we come to 1990s, this time is again very, very significant. Why? Three very significant amendments, constitutional amendment acts took place this time. Two amendments were regarding giving constitutional sanctity to Panchayati Raj institutions, urban municipal bodies, and another important domain was reservation. So again, these three amendments in 1990s had dealt with the question of the sanctity of political institutions, people's grassroots democracy, people's inclusive democracy, at the same time the question of socio-economic equality coming from below through constitutional rights, through reservation. So this is very, very important. Reservation not only in educational institutions, not only in governmental jobs, but today also in private institutions in promotion except for minority educational institutions. So this journey is continuously highlighting people's aspiration and the way Indian state has dealt with people's aspiration through this living document, through this apex document, through this negotiated document. And after 1990s, if we come to 2000 and until today, we have again seen multiple constitutional amendment acts which have tried to bring in changes in society, starting from Right to Information Acts. You can also understand the recent introduction of GST and the most significant Constitutional Amendment Act we have seen in 2019, that is the incorporation or reserving seats for economically weaker sections of society. So, in a very nutshell, from 1950s to 2019, if we just look at very significant constitutional amendments which have taken place in Indian society, in Indian politics, then it has shown a silent revolution in society. So, it is a combination of both. It's a combination of Constitution's revolutionary and emancipatory potential with the social reform, piecemeal reforms and changes in society. So, revisiting Indian Constitution forces us to look into our conflicting demands, aspirations and challenges. Venkatacharya Commission was also set up and it had submitted its report in 2002, which also had asked for multiple reforms for the better working of Indian Constitution in the realms of political institutions, electoral reforms and other spheres of health and education, socio-economic development. Therefore, if this is the journey, then how do we look at our journey today? Today we are standing in a very, very critical times. We cannot only look at the apex document with aspirations. We need to look at the challenges. Today, the growing atmosphere of communalization of politics, religion, caste is disturbing us. Another important area is the demand for dissenting voices, the demand for a space which acknowledges dissenting voices. We also need a space which acknowledges, which appreciates the domain of reason, debates, deliberations. We also need a space where the views from the marginal, where the views of the alternative can be given equal importance, can be heard with equal patience, and can be equally respected in society. This is the time when we need more patience for difference. This is the time when we need more respect for our Constitution. And this is the time when we truly need to have an inclusive culture for protecting our democracy, Constitution and secularism. Thanks for your patient hearing.